The discovery and the threat. The titanium alloy doors of Laboratory 7 slid open with a soft hiss as Cadet Isabella Torres rushed in, her dark curls still damp from the morning's zero-gravity training. She found her teammates already gathered around the massive artifact that dominated the center of the room. 15 meters of gleaming, otherworldly metal that had turned the scientific community upside down just 3 weeks ago. "You're late," commented Cadet Ryota Tanaka without looking up from his holographic display, his fingers dancing across the translucent interface as he compiled the morning's sensor readings. "Blame Professor Harrison's extra drills," Isabella replied, pulling up her own workstation. "Any progress?" Cadet Nikolai Volkov shook his head, his broad shoulders hunched over a complex array of diagnostic equipment. "Same as yesterday, and the day before, and the week before that. Whatever this thing is, it's about as cooperative as a quantum-locked cat." The fourth member of their team, Cadet Diana Williams, emerged from behind the artifact's curved surface, her dark skin gleaming with sweat. "The energy absorption patterns make no sense," she reported, dropping her tools with a clang that echoed through the cavernous lab. "It's like trying to fill a cup that doesn't exist." The artifact, officially designated Extodio A-142, but nicknamed Goliath by the maintenance crew, had been discovered during a routine mining operation on Europa. Initial scans suggested it was a weapon of unprecedented power, created by an ancient civilization that had vanished long before humans first looked up at the stars. The problem was, nobody could figure out how to activate it. Isabella approached the artifact, running her hand along its smooth surface. Unlike normal metal, it felt warm to the touch, almost alive. Intricate patterns swirled beneath its surface like frozen lightning, responding to her proximity with subtle shifts in color. "The senior researchers are still treating it like a conventional weapon system," she mused. "They keep trying to force it to accept our power sources, but what if?" A piercing alarm cut through the air, causing all 4 cadets to jump. Red emergency lights began pulsing along the walls as Admiral Santiago's hologram materialized in the center of the lab. "This is not a drill," the Admiral's projection announced, her face grave. "At 7:47 hours, our deep space monitoring stations detected a large fleet of unknown origin entering the solar system. Based on their trajectory and velocity, they will reach Earth in approximately 96 hours. All military personnel are hereby placed on active duty. Civilian evacuation protocols are being initiated." The cadets exchanged shocked glances as the hologram continued. "Project Ancient Guardian is now our highest priority. All research teams are ordered to intensify their efforts. That is all." As the hologram flickered out, Diana let out a low whistle. "Well, that's one way to add pressure to our senior project." "They're really out there," Ryota whispered, his usual composure cracking slightly. "All these years of preparing for first contact, and they're actually coming." Isabella's mind raced. 4 days. In 4 days, either they'd solve the mystery of this ancient weapon, or Earth would face an unknown alien force with only conventional defenses. She watched as a procession of Earth's top scientists began flooding into the lab, their voices rising in urgent discussion. "Look at them," Nikolai said quietly. "They're already arguing about power coefficients and quantum resonance patterns. They'll waste another day going down the same dead ends." Isabella's gaze shifted to the artifact, its surface now reflecting the chaos of the lab like a dark mirror. Something nagged at the back of her mind. A crazy idea she dismissed weeks ago as too simplistic. But now, with time running out, "What if we're all thinking about this backward?" she said slowly, drawing her team's attention. "We keep treating it like a weapon that needs to be powered up. But what if it's already powered? What if what we're seeing isn't a dead system, but a dormant one?" Diana's eyes widened, like a computer in sleep mode rather than shut down. "Exactly," Isabella nodded, excitement building. "Look at how it responds to proximity, how the patterns shift. It's not inert, it's waiting." "Waiting for what?" Ryota asked, but his fingers were already flying across his holographic interface, reconfiguring his sensors. The right input, Nikolai answered, catching on. Not a power source, but a key. Isabella pulled up the original discovery footage, focusing on the moment the mining team first uncovered the artifact. See these pattern changes? They're not random. They're responding to specific stimuli. We don't need to power it up. We need to wake it up. A loud crash from across the lab made them all turn. One of the senior scientists had just fried another power coupling in a shower of sparks. Time was running out, and humanity's best minds were still running in circles. We need authorization to try something different, Isabella said, straightening her uniform. Something that probably violates half the safety protocols in the manual. Her teammates shared a look, then nodded in unison. They were just cadets, 4 students who hadn't even graduated from the Space Academy. But sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from those too inexperienced to know what's impossible. As they headed toward Admiral Santiago's office, Diana grinned nervously. No pressure, right? We just have to succeed where everyone else has failed, or watch our planet face an alien invasion. Could be worse. Nikolai shrugged. How could this possibly be worse? Could be finals week. Admiral Santiago stood at the observation window, her weathered face reflected against the backdrop of stars. Behind her, Isabella and her team waited in tense silence as she reviewed their proposal on her datapad. Let me get this straight, she said finally, turning to face them. While our top scientists have been trying to brute force this artifact with increasingly powerful energy sources, you believe it's actually in some kind of standby mode. Yes, Admiral, Isabella replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. The patterns we've observed in its surface structure suggest it's actively processing input, just not the kind we've been providing. And your solution is to... The Admiral glanced down at the datapad, eyebrows rising. Hack it, like a computer system. Ryota stepped forward, his usual reserve replaced by barely contained excitement. We've analyzed the artifact's response patterns to various stimuli. They show striking similarities to quantum neural networks, but operating on a scale we've never seen before. We believe it's not just a weapon. It's an artificial intelligence in dormant state. The Admiral's office fell silent except for the low hum of life support systems. Through the window, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the void. Somewhere out there, an alien fleet was drawing closer with each passing second. You realize, Admiral Santiago said slowly, that if you're wrong, you could destroy humanity's only hope of defending against this invasion. And if you're right, she let the implications hang in the air. We're waking up an alien eye, Nikolai finished. Yes, ma'am. We've considered the risks. Diana pulled up a holographic simulation. We've designed multiple failsafes. At the first sign of hostile behavior, we can sever all connections and restore the artifact to its current state. The Admiral studied each cadet in turn, her expression unreadable. Finally, she tapped her datapad. You have 12 hours. After that, we'll have to fall back on conventional options. Don't make me regret this. The next 10 hours were a blur of activity. The team converted Laboratory 7 into their own private workspace, much to the vocal protestations of the senior researchers. Ryota's workstation expanded into a sprawling network of holographic displays, each showing different aspects of the artifact's neural patterns. Diana and Nikolai worked on modifying their quantum interface equipment, while Isabella coordinated their efforts and refined their approach. It's like trying to have a conversation with someone who speaks a completely alien language, Isabella muttered, staring at another failed attempt to establish a connection. Because that's exactly what we're doing. Maybe we're thinking too literally, Diana suggested, looking up from her work. When human babies learn language, they don't start with grammar rules. They start with patterns, responses, cause and effect. Nikolai's head snapped up. That's it. We're trying to speak its language. But maybe we should be teaching it ours first. The team huddled around Isabella's workstation as she pulled up the artifact's base response patterns. Look here, she pointed. Every time we approach it, these patterns shift. It's aware of us, trying to understand us. What if instead of complex power signatures or computer code, we start with something simpler? Binary, Ryota breathed. The most basic computer language we have. True or false, on or off, present or absent. They worked frantically, reconfiguring their equipment to send the simplest possible signals to the artifact. Hours ticked by as they refined their approach, each failure teaching them something new about how the alien system processed information. With 2 hours remaining in their window, something changed. The artifact's surface patterns began shifting in new ways, responding to their binary signals with patterns of its own. "It's working," Diana whispered, afraid to break the moment. "It's actually learning to communicate with us." But their breakthrough came with a cost. As the artifact became more active, it began drawing power from their systems in ways they hadn't anticipated. Equipment sparked and failed across the lab as the ancient AI pulled more and more energy to fuel its awakening. "Power levels are going critical," Nikolai reported, his fingers flying across his controls. "We need to shut it down or—" "No," Isabella interrupted. "Look at the pattern matching. It's not just taking power randomly. It's studying our technology, learning how we generate and control energy." Ryota's eyes widened as he analyzed the data. She's right. It's not trying to power itself. It's trying to understand our power systems so it can adapt its own systems to be compatible. Warning alarms blared as the lab's power grid strained under the load. They had minutes, maybe seconds, before the safety systems would force a shutdown. Isabella made a decision that would either save Earth or end her career. "Divert all power to the artifact," she ordered. "Everything we've got." "That's against every safety protocol." Nikolai started. "Do it." The lab plunged into darkness as they redirected every available joule of energy to the alien eye. Emergency lights cast red shadows across their faces as they watched the artifact's surface come alive with swirling patterns of impossible complexity. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the power drain ceased. The lab's systems hummed back to life, and the artifact changed. Its surface shifted from opaque to translucent, revealing intricate structures within that pulsed with their own inner light. "Power levels are stable," Ryota reported, his voice filled with disbelief. It's running on its own now. We did it. We actually did it." Before they could celebrate, a new alarm sounded. This one from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. The alien fleet had accelerated. They would reach Earth in less than 48 hours. Isabella stared at the now-awakened artifact, its surface swimming with patterns that seemed almost eager to communicate. "Well," she said, managing a tight smile, "now comes the hard part. We need to teach an alien eye to talk, and convince it to help us, before the invasion fleet arrives." Behind them, Admiral Santiago stepped out of the shadows where she'd been quietly observing. "Then I suggest you get to work, cadets. Earth is counting on you, whether it knows it or not. Testing the impossible." The alien AI learned fast, too fast. Within hours of establishing basic communication, it had absorbed enough of Earth's languages to begin meaningful dialogue. Its messages appeared as shifting patterns of light that the lab's computers translated into text. "Purpose QUERI," it announced, its first coherent message making every screen in the lab flicker. "We need your help," Isabella responded through the interface they'd built. "Our world is in danger." "Creator's return," the AI replied. "Defense Puerto Ciudad active." The team exchanged worried glances. Ryota's fingers flew across his console. "Wait, it thinks the approaching fleet belongs to its creators." "Inqret." The AI's response came immediately. "Creators long going. Approaching fleet. Destroyers. Ancient enemy." The revelation hit them like a physical blow. They hadn't just discovered a weapon. They'd stumbled into an ancient war. The artifact wasn't just a defense system. It was a survivor, a sentinel left behind to warn of this exact threat. Diana worked frantically to download the AI's historical records, while Nikolai coordinated with Earth's defense forces. The picture that emerged was terrifying. The approaching fleet belonged to a species that had driven the artifact's creators to extinction, systemically destroying civilizations across the galaxy. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" Isabella asked the AI. Communication was incomplete. Learning. Adapting. Humans different from creators. Innovative. Unpredictable. Admiral Santiago, who had made the lab her temporary command center, stepped forward. "Can you help us fight them? Need GATIV, weapon systems, or EQYs, creators, GNETCKEY. Alternative is evolution processing." The Admiral's face fell, but Isabella noticed something in the AI's phrasing. "Alternative solution. What do you mean?" The AI's response came as a complex series of technical specifications and energy patterns. As the team decoded them, excitement built in the room. "It's not going to fight for us," Ryota breathed. "It's going to teach us how to fight for ourselves." Part 4. The Final Hours. The next day passed in a blur of activity. The AI provided them with specifications for modifying Earth's existing defense systems with elements of its creator's technology. It wasn't the superweapon they'd hoped for, but something potentially better. A way to upgrade humanity's entire defensive network. Teams worldwide worked to implement the modifications as the alien fleet drew closer. The AI's knowledge, combined with human ingenuity, produced results that would have taken decades to develop otherwise. But with 12 hours remaining, they hit a critical problem. "The power requirements are impossible," Nikolai announced, running another simulation. "Even with all of Earth's power plants running at maximum capacity, we can't generate enough energy to power the enhanced defense grid." Isabella studied the energy flow diagrams and suddenly understood. It's not about generating more power. It's about using what we have more effectively. She turned to her team. "We need to synchronize every power plant on Earth, create a single unified grid." "That's never been done before," Diana protested. "The coordination alone would be impossible." Isabella smiled, like waking up an ancient alien eye. They set to work, using the AI's quantum communication principles to design a worldwide power synchronization system. As the hours counted down, humanity achieved something remarkable. True global cooperation in the face of extinction. Humanity's stand. The alien fleet arrived precisely on schedule, materializing near lunar orbit in a display of technological superiority. Hundreds of ships, each larger than anything humanity had ever built, arranged themselves in an attack formation. In Laboratory 7, Isabella and her team made final adjustments to the coordinated defense system. The AI's pattern swirled with an almost anxious energy as it monitored the approaching fleet. Admiral Santiago gave the order, and humanity's modified defense grid hummed to life. The synchronized power network performed perfectly, channeling energy with an efficiency that would have seemed miraculous days ago. The alien fleet launched its first attack and met something they'd never encountered before. Human unpredictability enhanced by ancient alien precision. Earth's defensive screens, upgraded with the AI's technology, absorbed the initial barrage completely. The counterattack came from directions the aliens couldn't have anticipated, using principles they'd never encountered. "They're pulling back," Diana reported, watching the tactical display. "Regrouping for another attack." The second wave of attacks came with more force, but Earth's defenses held. Hours passed in a tense tactical battle, with the alien fleet probing for weaknesses and finding none. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the unthinkable happened. The alien fleet retreated. Celebrations erupted worldwide as the alien ships disappeared into deep space. In Laboratory 7, Isabella and her team sat in exhausted relief, trying to process what they'd accomplished. Admiral Santiago addressed the world's leaders. Today marks a new chapter in human history. We faced extinction and survived, not through superior firepower, but through cooperation, innovation, and the willingness to think differently. The A's final message scrolled across their screens. Qrea2rs to build perfect weapon. Humans evolved better solution. Request. Continue learning, growing, evolving, together. Isabella looked at her team, no longer just cadets, but pioneers of a new age of human-AI cooperation. So, she said with a tired smile, who's ready to help teach an alien AI about human culture? As long as we start with something easier than quantum physics, Nicolay groaned. Like what? Diana asked. Ryota grinned. How about we explain why humans put pineapple on pizza? As laughter filled the lab, Isabella realized that humanity hadn't just survived an alien invasion. They gained something invaluable, a new perspective on their own potential, and a reminder that their greatest strength wasn't in their weapons, but in their ability to think differently, work together, and adapt to any challenge. The ancient power they discovered wasn't in the artifact itself, but in the bridge it created between two very different forms of intelligence, each learning from the other. As Earth began its recovery and preparation for future challenges, one thing was clear. Humanity's story was far from over. It was, in many ways, just beginning.